Let's talk a bit about how things work here at the TU Berlin. If you're considering to study here, this video will help you to get to know a bit more about how different components of the system here at the TU Berlin work. So let's get started right away with the probably biggest question of them all. How do the courses work? What types of exams are there, and in what settings are the courses taught? Let's start with the latter question. In what settings are the courses taught? There are multiple different types the course can be taught. So the first one is, of course, the lectures. And we all know what lectures are. You just sit in a room, listen to a lecturer present the material, take notes, and then revisit everything probably afterwards again because it was too much and too fast for one go. Now, those lectures can take place in, for example, large auditoriums where 400, 500 or even 1000 students can fit in, or in smaller rooms where like 40 to 50 people can fit in. Where the course will take place pretty much just depends on the course itself. If it is a really basic and fundamental course like linear algebra or calculus, pretty much everyone has to take those courses from several different degrees, so the rooms have to be large and will be pretty full. On the other hand, the higher your semester is, or especially when you get into master programs, the courses will shrink in size and the rooms won't be that large because you only have like 20 to 30 peer students. To be even more precise, you're not only changing the room in one building, but you are changing the building itself, depending on the program you are in. If you're having some fundamental math courses, for example, those will probably be in the main building. But if you then also have some electrical engineering courses where you have to visit a lab, then you will go into the electrical engineering building. So yeah, it's just important to know there are different buildings that you will have to visit depending on what lecture you will have to visit and so on. Some buildings are designated for computer science, some are designated for chemistry, some are for electrical engineering, and so on. Well, that was a fairly long side trip into the physical settings of courses. Let's take a step back and again look into the conceptual course settings. So we've already talked about what you do in lectures, right? You listen to the professor, you take notes, and then you revisit everything because it was too much at once. Now, therefore we have tutorials. Those are just little sessions that build on top of the lecture material, that teach you how to apply the theory that you've learned in lecture practically, that are a bit more interactive, and that just help you understand the material even better. Now, those take place in physically smaller settings, where you have one tutor for example, 30 students. You usually learn here the most. The tutor itself is a student, and he knows how to study, and he knows how to distill the information of the lectures into manageable pieces for other students to learn. So yeah, the usual course will have one lecture per week and one corresponding tutorial per week. But some courses also have labs. Practical courses like physics, electrical engineering, chemistry, chemical engineering, courses like that need some hands-on experience. Therefore, you will go into a lab and there execute some experiments. Those labs sometimes often function like a tutorial itself, where you have a theory session in the beginning where you revisit all the material, and then you go into the experiments, collect data, and then write protocols or lab reports. Yes, I know we are still going on. So tutorials are the little sessions where you practice and apply the theory you have learned in the lectures. But what there also are actual practice sessions that are pretty much tutorials, but in really large sessions in auditoriums. So you have those little tutorial sessions and you have those larger practice sessions, which have the same concept. You have one guy in front of you solving exercises for you and explaining some things. There are some similarities, but also some differences. Of course, you can ask questions, but usually it's not that interactive. It's one lecturer for like potentially 100 or even hundreds of students. It's not that interactive, and usually the person that is presenting to you the solutions is not a student. So yeah, every course can pretty much choose whatever they want to include, but the standard is pretty much always a lecture with a tutorial, or in some cases a lecture with a lab. Except of course project or like lab courses, those are just really practical. I won't go into them. They pretty much just say, okay, here's the problem that you have to solve, implement something, do something. We'll assist you a bit if you want. You'll then write some reports, do some presentations, but it's a bit different, but I won't go too much into detail. Okay, that was a lot. Let's continue with what types of exams there are. And of course, the standard one is the written exam. We all know what that is. You have one final exam at the end of the semester where you have to apply everything that you have learned during the course of the semester. Those exams are usually set in the first few weeks of your lecture-free time or your vacation. And in German, this is called the Klausurenphase. And this is pretty much a single point of failure, but I'll talk a bit more about failing exams in a bit. Something else to note with those written exams is that there often are prerequisites. Those prerequisites are often homework assignments that you have to do weekly and where you have to pass a certain amount of those. For example, if you have 10 homework assignments across the semester, you will have to pass, I guess, 8 of those, which means you have to have 50% or better on 8 of the homework assignments that you received during the semester. Now, those homework assignments are not part of your final grade. Those are just prerequisites to be allowed to register for the final exam. Courses where those graded homework assignments are actually part of your final grade are called portfolio exams. In general, a portfolio exam is just a system where you not only have one final exam, but you have multiple components that add up or sum up to one final grade. For example, you have weekly homework assignments plus one final exam, or you have weekly lab reports plus one final exam, or you have homework assignments plus one midterm test and one final test, and combinations like that. Those project courses that I mentioned briefly, those are also considered portfolio exams. There you have to hand in your implementation, you have to do 1 or 2 presentations, hand in a final report, and that should be it. I personally really like portfolio exams. You there just don't have a single point of failure. And well, if you don't really care about the grade, you can already pass the exam like after half of the time and then just drop the course because you have passed it already. And finally, there's also the option of oral exams, which are pretty much again just a final exam in the end of the semester, like written exams, just way shorter in time, where you have 1 to 3 examiners sitting there asking you questions that you have to answer, and you potentially have to solve some problems on a whiteboard. But I honestly have never had a course with a final oral exam, so I don't know, but they exist. Okay, now let's talk about how and when to register for a course. But first, we have to talk about the 2 portals that students use to pretty much access all of their course material. The first one is called ISIS. I know it's an interesting acronym, but it stands for Information System for Instructors and Students. The second one is called MOSIS. ISIS is the website that you will be using probably the most. Here you will just join any course that you want or need without registering for any exam. In ISIS, every course will upload its homework assignments, its lecture slides, and all the material that they want to provide you. This means that you can theoretically join almost any course that you want, follow along the slides, do the exercises, learn something, and then just not write the exam because you haven't registered, which may or may not be the thing that you want to do. So this means that you can join a course and just look at the material and learn things, but what you register for is the exam, and that you do via MOSIS. Here you not only register for exams, but you also register for tutorials. And you can also look at a full list of all courses provided by the TU Berlin. To actually register, you'll simply have to search for the course, select an exam date, and then hit register if you meet the prerequisites. So when do you actually register? Well, that will obviously be announced on ISIS for each course, but in general, for written exams, you can take your time. The registration date will be fairly late into the semester, and you can also unregister for exam, I believe, 1 day before the exam actually takes place. For portfolio exams, on the other hand, you'll have to register fairly early on because the components that you work on during the semester, for example, homework assignments, are also already part of your final exam that you have to be registered for. Okay, the next question that you might ask yourself is, well, what if I fail an exam? So first of all, don't worry, you have 3 attempts. The first 2 will be written and the third one will be oral. But everything is doable if you have fun at learning and do put in the work that you need to do. Now, something important to mention is that with every written exam, be it a final written exam or a midterm exam or some tests, you should always have 2 options to choose from as an exam date. If you right away choose the second exam because on the first one you are on vacation or on holiday or just need more time, you will have to pass the exam, or otherwise you will have to wait till the exams next semester, which is pretty annoying. But if you directly choose the first exam date and happen to fail that one, you then have the next option a few weeks later for the second exam date. And then you have all the time you need to learn again and hopefully pass the second attempt. And that is what I would recommend. Always try and go for the first date. If you fail that one or something unexpected happens, you then still have the option to just write the second exam. Okay, let's have a quick little summary and then continue with the video, and we're almost done. So we know there are lectures, tutorials, practice sessions and labs. We know there are written exams, portfolio exams or oral exams. And we also know that we have to register for an exam and choose a certain date and have 3 attempts to pass. All of this is a lot of work, no doubt. But, well, uni is your full-time job. Or is it? How strict is the course schedule actually? Well, the short answer is you can choose and take any course that you want whenever you want. Of course, a bachelor program in most cases is set out for 3 years, but it's not mandatory. There always should be a recommended course plan, but if you, for example, want to take it slow and have more time to just live your life, or if you really need to work a 20-hour job next to uni to be able to live here in Berlin, that's all fine and you can do that. You totally can take 3 courses per semester instead of 5, which would eventually mean that you have to study like 1.5 years longer, but this is really no big deal. This really is just up to you. The German university system in general is really supportive of many people in their different states in life. Okay, and that was it for this video. I really hope this video could provide you some value and give you a good overview of how the system here at the TU Berlin works. And if it did bring you some value, please don't forget to like. If you want to follow along my journey as a computer science student specializing in machine learning here at the TU Berlin, please consider subscribing. And here is a video of a day in my life as a computer science student at the TU Berlin, which you might enjoy. And with that said, as always, thank you very, very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!